Hello, everybody. Welcome back. My name is Lorne Cooper, and this is the Real Estate Agent Advantage. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. I was telling Aleta before, I always forget to say that, so I'm saying it now. Like, share, and subscribe if you like the channel, you like the content, and we're going to get right into it. So, Aleta Reynolds, please introduce yourself to everybody and kind of tell everyone your background and how you got into the real estate space.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me on here. I absolutely love your channel. So definitely like, subscribe, share. Um,
Thank you.
it's powerful for our YouTubers and podcast hosts. I got in real estate back when I was 18 because I graduated when I was 17 with scholarships and I couldn't take them because I was already on my own and I needed a parental signature. Hindsight, I probably should just forge their signatures and went with it. But I bought my own house and then I decided to become a real estate agent because I'm like, oh, I'm going to be an investor and I could do it better than them. And I can't believe they got paid that much to just do what they did. And
Exactly.
so I worked at Red Robin for about a year while I went to real estate school. And in Oregon, it was like 1,400 hours. It was something just crazy that you had to show up to. And so that's where it started for me. I was licensed as a luxury agent, buyer's agent assistant for a team with Windermere for a couple years. And then it wasn't until I was actually prospected by a Keller Williams agent that I joined his team. And that started my long love affair with cold calls.
Always in the same region, the same geographic area?
No, I've been licensed in 4 different areas, Oregon, Alaska, Arizona, and Illinois. So, and now I'm in Tennessee. So I know real estate nationally, but as far as being an active real estate agent, I've sold real estate in 3 different states.
So how did that come about?
Just the movement. Well, when I was in Oregon, I moved to Oregon to get to know my dad because I was raised by my grandma. And then that didn't really pan out. But then I met my now ex-husband, had a child, divorced because we had a child. And then I moved up to Alaska where all my family is. And my family's from Alaska. We're 6 generations deep Alaskan. And I'm like, all right, I'm a single mom now. I'm going to go back home. Realize that grandparents and aunts and cousins aren't really what they used to be. And I was still a single mom, only now I was freezing cold. So I found a home as a buyer's agent with Unity Home Group in Anchorage, Alaska, and they had an expansion team in Arizona.
Oh,
And
wow.
at the time, I was dialing their leads. I was showing other agents how to dial leads. And they were like, hey, would you want to transfer down to Arizona and show our team there and help set up our team there? I was like, yeah, absolutely. 300 sunshine days a year, sign me up. So it was within like 6 weeks. They said, if you get your license or enroll in real estate school, we'll transfer you down there. And so I did. And it was right around the Keller Williams family reunion. And just transferred down there, got my real estate license, and then started really understanding internet leads because before then, I had been dialing Vulcan 7. Ren Jones, he created Vulcan 7. It's the best platform out there, still is. And I didn't understand internet leads until I joined Unity Home Group. So, and
Okay.
then when you get a big city, it's like, that's a whole other animal. I would rather cold call any day of the week than work buyer leads in a big city. But, now after developing my ISA call centers, I understand it a lot better and I can help people a lot more. But at the time, I was like, what is this? What do you mean you don't want to buy this house? I just drove an hour and a half in traffic to show it to you.
And what kind of timeline are we looking at here? At the point when you're in Arizona, how long had you been in real estate overall?
That was about the halfway point when I moved to Arizona. So right there, right around 7 to 10 years or so, I had already been licensed because I started my call center 7 years ago. So at my
Okay.
decade mark is when I started my ISA call centers.
And what year was that roughly in Arizona when you started working the internet leads?
That would have been 2013,
Okay.
2014-ish. Yeah.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah. So after the
And
crash,
yeah, yeah.
we're coming out of the crash. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So I have a few questions, if you don't mind. I want to unpack the history there, how you sort of
Yeah,
gained
no,
your
no, at all.
experience and everything. So you got into the industry very, very young, and I've spoken to a few people that got in very young, and I didn't. I got in kind of old. um, I was about, I guess it's 10 years, so about 33 is when I got in. But so I'm curious, as an 18-year-old getting your license and then transitioning to different areas, and then in within different teams, and different teams have different structures and ways of doing business. What did you learn? What was your process and progress from 18-year-old just getting their license to eventually being sent to Arizona to kind of train everybody and making the calls on internet leads?
Yeah, I mean, that was an entire professional, personal journey. I mean, it wasn't just one transition. I mean, I was raised in poverty. So, I mean, the fact that we even had linoleum in the kitchen, but no flooring in the living room, at one point the carpet was just ripped out because it was irreparable and disgusting. So we just didn't have any flooring, to showing multi-million dollar homes. I was like, I don't understand why you want marble flown in from Italy.
Right. Different world, right?
I didn't even understand it. And so when I first applied, well, I met the agent that I was an assistant for while I was at Red Robin, because she came to Red Robin every Wednesday for a glass of wine and met her husband. And through getting to know them, I'm like, yeah, I'm getting my real estate license. She's like, well, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to be an investor. And she's like, no, you're not. Like, with what money are you going to be an investor? And so it was really through her kind of taking me under her wing, where this is home showing etiquette, this is real estate etiquette, this is how you dress, this is how you talk to people, this is, at the time we still had lead cards being mailed in. The team that I worked with at Windermere, where they would mail them out, they would get mailed back, and I found them in a box. I said, nobody's called these. And so I went and called them and drummed up more business for them. And I found that my support system, me being a support system role for that team, was really where I felt comfortable. But to learn how to be a buyer's agent, host an open house, how to talk to people, how to show a home, that all really started there, but it was very chaotic. It was very messy, very chaotic. Really no systems in place. It wasn't until I was introduced to the Tim Davis team at Keller Williams that I started to fall in love with the real estate model. Like, oh, wow, there's actually a system to this, and there's a better way to find business than just sitting in an open house.
Right.
For me, the power of the phone made complete sense. For me to call the FSBOs in the newspaper, and for me to call the expireds, and for us to circle prospect, to call the nurtures, to call our old leads, to me, that made all the sense in the world.
Hmm.
And it made a lot more sense than sitting in a house hoping and praying for people to show up.
Right.
So for me, it clicked. But that whole journey of how to talk to people on the phone, understanding the disc personalities, understanding who you're talking to, that really groomed me for being able to conduct my own appointments, take my own listings, help my own buyers. And by the time that I had moved up to Alaska, I mean, I went through the crash. So we were doing BPOs and offering cash for keys, and, saw the short sale market turn into the foreclosure market. And, as I'm leaving Alaska down to Arizona, saw the rebirth rate of the real estate market. So there is that whole just, what do you mean we need to change things? Well, it's not working, so you have to change it, and really becoming a problem solver.
Mhm. I think if you're in the industry for any length of time, you'll start to see a few cycles. You start to understand patterns, and then you're forced into accepting and embracing change and understanding how strategies need to change as markets change, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, really becoming a mom and still being in real estate, I was already doing appointments virtually. I was already, relying on things. So as we come into a pandemic where we can't go, we can't drive, I'm like, guys, I've been having Zoom meetings for 3-4 years now. I mean, like, this is really cool, embrace it. But when you're forced to take a different route, and become a problem solver, really real estate agents face a different market seasonally.
Hmm.
Uh, and some of them just don't sell anything seasonally, and they just stay on course to what they know. And some of them flex and change, and they prepare for it. So it really just depends on your threshold for change and your ability to kind of go with the movement of the market.
Absolutely. And I know Keller Williams sort of started, at least as far as I understand, that whole idea of expansion teams kind of here and there. And they were kind of the first ones to kind of get that going. Now, you said that moving to that team at Keller Williams, they were the first, experience that you had that was really kind of systematized, where they had a way of doing, certain things and following processes. it's really interesting because especially when someone's coming in this business by themselves as a lone wolf, they don't really know what to do. They don't know what they don't know, but then they kind of learn, and they're like a little bit of this and a little of that, and things fall through the cracks all the time. So what sort of systems were in place that you found were really effective in terms of buyers and sellers that people that don't know, that are new in the industry, might benefit from being exposed to?
Yeah, I mean, really just to go from being, okay, let's just take a solo agent out of school. Okay, you get out of school, you get your real estate license, you're like, I'm a real estate agent. All right, what's next? Okay, well, I'm going to go to this brokerage that doesn't charge me any fees and I'm going to do everything. And I'm only going to pay them when I close something. Let's just take that for an example. And we'll take Keller Williams, EXP, Remax, all of those big training brokerages out of it. Well, when they get a buyer, they do everything. They find the homes, they show the homes, they write the offers, they negotiate inspections, they do all the paperwork, they get it to closing, right?
Right.
When they find a seller, they get the sign in the ground, they order pictures, the lockbox, they are mindful of the seller's needs. They're negotiating showings or making sure the showings happen. They are the one person. You get more than four of those at one time. So you have a paperwork nightmare, you have a photo nightmare, you have a sign nightmare, you have a, are we even closing things? And then when you get to the closing table, somebody goes out and they buy furniture the day before close because you forgot to remind them not to, or the lender doesn't have everything. You don't have any support system. You are the show.
Right.
You're the one
Absolutely.
in the band. And then if you don't know anybody, let's say that you're in an area that you don't have a lot of friends and family, or you're nervous to work with your friends and family because you don't want to fail on them. You don't want them to be your first trial, right? Well, now you got to find leads. Well, how are you going to do that? Well, it's going to cost you money, or you're going to door knock. Well, what do I say? And so it's this whole thing of where when you go to a brokerage, you're like, okay, well, I'll pay when I close something. You end up going 6 months, even 18 months without a closing because of that exact thing where you are the one person and you have to
It's got a large learning curve. So not only are you wearing all these hats, but it's just a really large learning curve, and it takes a while to figure all these things out. Whereas, like you're saying, if you're plugged into a team with a system, then
yeah,
that's great. You learn while you're going. You have kind of built-in mentorship, hopefully, and training and coaching. I mean,
absolutely.
we all know there are crappy teams out there, but I'm
Oh
talking about
yeah.
the good ones.
Oh yeah. Well, and you know what? I think that expectations are key. I think that communication is key. And when you are applying to be a part of a huge real estate team, what you see on the billboard and what it took to get them there and what you're currently walking into is completely different.
Yes.
There's show business and then there's behind the scenes, the work. And a lot of people just want the show business. They don't want
The
to
HGTV version of Million Dollar Listing, or walking into it and bang, you're there. They're not seeing also, they're seeing a business that's already been established for several years and probably already has, several systems in the go, and they're running, and what works for them now wouldn't have worked for them in the beginning to get them started. So different systems are important at different times in the stages of
absolutely.
development, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And the more agents that you add to a team, the more holes you expose, the more bottlenecks you run into. And we find that with ISA services all the time.
Mm.
The second that I give you guys 40 more appointments a month, it's amazing how fast we can sink your ship. And you just don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And so when you're a brand new real estate agent, the best thing you can do is join a team that has a training resource, that has a mentorship program, right? That
Yep.
has the ability to say, yes, log on to EXP World and take any class you want for free, because then they can be a student of their trade. I'm not going to just drop you off at Denali National Park without a guide your first time, right? But if
Right.
I give you a guide, you probably have a better chance of survival and
Absolutely.
a heck of a stronger chance at closing things before your first year's over.
Definitely, definitely. Okay, so you keep talking about these magical letters, really, ISA, and people hear that all the time, and they may not know what this is all about. So, I mean, a lot of people do. It's been a hot topic over the last several years in real estate overall. Let's talk about your journey from, working with that team in Arizona to what you're doing now, and then we can dig into what that is and how it helps other people.
Yeah, so moving down with Unity Home Group wasn't really a huge success for me. I found that they had 12,000 leads in their database, and they all had to be hand dialed. And the team next door Brett Tanner teams, Brian Gubernick's team, Kevin Kaufman's team, because I was at their market center. They all had power dialers. I was introduced to the Mojo dialer, and that is the best dialer. And I've tried, as new dialers come on, I like to try them, just in case something better comes out.
Right.
And I'm thinking, but at the time I'm sitting there going, all we have to do is load this list into the dialer, and I could call all of these like this month, next month, like it'll take me a couple months with triple line, right? And they wouldn't let me. And it got to that where I'm a high DI when you put me in the real estate seat, and I'm a problem solver. I'm like, this is stupid. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, I
And
think we're the same that way. And again, going back on the disc profile and DI and all that, there are different systems in describing personality types and the way that people kind of interact with the world. There's disc, there's one with colors like orange, yellow, blue or something. There's a
yeah,
few of them, right? I'm
yeah,
familiar with the disc one, so we're on the same path there.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, you're familiar with it. I mean, typically when you go through language of sales, you learn about it on how to interact with your sellers and buyers. At least that's what my first Keller Williams team put us through. And Keller Williams was huge on that. EXP is huge on that. A lot of the big brokerages are really big on knowing your customer and knowing yourself.
Mhm.
I'm huge on it when we talk about hiring an ISA. An ISA is the person that you've hired to set appointments for you, whether they're an agent or whether they're a VA or we call them ISAs. So you've heard OSA, ISA. But for me, they're ISAs. If they're hired to set appointments, they're hired to call your leads, they're an ISA.
And ISA stands for what, for everyone that doesn't know?
Inside sales agent. I call them inside sales associates because I don't want them to be agents. I actually don't think that they should be agents. I have a different look on it. I respect the different models, but for what I find that works, they are a partner in your team that has no desire to go out and do sales.
Sure, sure, absolutely. And you know what? I'll put in a little caveat there because it really depends on your market center and where you work and what the rules and regulations are. Because sometimes they have to be licensed if they're making calls that are real estate related. Sometimes not. So really get to know what the rules are where you are located. But I totally hear you in terms of perspective and becoming an agent or getting licensed just because you have to and making the calls. I mean, there's a
Yeah,
big difference in those rules, right?
absolutely, absolutely. I know that Texas is one of the toughest states to be an ISA because you literally have to be licensed now to even work your opt-in leads. So,
Mhm.
like, let's say that you get the Commission Sync CRM or Chime CRM, Sierra Interactive, any lead funnel that comes into you, your opt-in leads, you have to be licensed to call them in Texas. And a lot of states aren't like that. To do an expired or a cold call or circle prospecting, you need a license. But a lot of states say, hey, if they're opt-in, they're coming to you and they're getting them to an agent. You don't have to be licensed. So you definitely have to be mindful of that. And to have a licensed ISA isn't such a bad thing. They're probably going to pass the course with winning colors or winning scores and get it done quickly. And it's just
Right,
going to be something that sits on the shelf. But having them licensed just to be mindful of those rules, it's not a bad thing.
right.
And you should be mindful of them.
Okay, so your journey to ISA, I mean, you spent a lot of time prospecting. I think that's probably the Keller Williams influence, right?
Yep.
Because they're about the prospecting, which is it's great. I got nothing against it. But there's two ways of getting business in real estate, right? There's sort of what I call the chase and the attract, right? And the chase is sort of sweat equity where you're door knocking, you're cold calling, you're out there networking, and the attract is more you're paying for marketing dollars and hoping things will come inbound, whether it's online leads, postcards, whatever the case may be, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and you can't, I mean, okay, unless you're coming in bankrolled to this industry, generally speaking, you have to build up in order to get, a cash war chest to spend on
Absolutely.
marketing, right? So
Yep.
typically speaking, you got to get pretty decent at one method of prospecting or another.
Absolutely. Well, even if you're coming in as a second generation real estate agent and you're kind of walking into this database, right? This referral built database, you have to understand how to talk to people in
Right.
real estate. And in our business, a lot of it starts on the phone. So no matter what you're doing, whether you're dialing for dollars or whether you're just answering the phone or whether everybody in town and they're just sending you leads because of whatever call to action you put out there, you have got to know how to talk to people on the phone. And what I have found is that a lot of real estate agents, even as their referral agents, and they really don't need to cold call. Number one, their database gets exhausted, so they have to replenish it somehow, right? So they do
Right.
some sort of outbound marketing. But number two, a lot of them don't fully exhaust or qualify their leads, so they're still relying on their 1 to 5% of who
Right.
they're interacting with, and then the rest of them just fly by the wayside. But I mean, they're almost every top producing agent out there, especially if they're relying on the referrals, they're leaving a lot of business on the table.
Absolutely, because it takes a certain amount of contacts and follow-up system to actually
Oh,
pull out the most you can from your marketing dollars. And speaking of that, I mean, I know I've had Ricky Carruth on the show, and he says the same thing. He's like, bypass all the marketing BS to get you to just talking to somebody. So just pick up the phone and talk to somebody. I think you can do it either way. Whatever your system is, great, go for it. But ultimately, yes, you have to speak to somebody on the phone because they're going to call you from a postcard if that's the case, or an online lead, or you're just cold calling. You have to get to that connection. That connection has to get face to face in order for something to happen. So I find that if you go in to prospecting, at least in the beginning, with an open mind, and you're willing to learn, you learn how to communicate with people effectively, right? And that's ultimately what has to happen in this business. Even if your long-term play is to just be the face on the billboard and be that guy or girl, I mean, sure, cool, whatever. Everything works in this business. Go for it. But you have to talk to people, right?
yeah. Yep. Well, one of the biggest problems that the billboard person has, right? Let's use Mark Spain, right? He's big here in Nashville, a lot among other places, but people call the billboard and they want to work with Mark Spain. Well, the person answering that phone, they need to know how to handle that objection.
Right.
Well, what do you mean Mark Spain's not coming out to my house? Right?
Exactly.
Well, we're a large team of agents that specialize in your area, and we were trained personally by Mark Spain, and we follow his practices and whatnot, and we'll be coming out there with his business model, with the ability to sell your home or whatever that looks like. They have to be able to navigate that objection.
Right.
When you have sign calls, like a lot of referral agents, they rely on their new business coming in from sign calls. I can't tell you how many sign call recordings I've heard where the buyer calls in, hey, does this have 4 bathrooms? The person answering, no, it doesn't. Okay, thanks, bye. All right, bye, have a good day. Like, okay. Well, I think a little bit of training on that ISA that's answering those phone calls, on how to convert that lead effectively for you would really go a long way.
Right. Or really, I mean, ultimately, it starts with you as the agent. If you're a solo agent, you need to learn what to do, and you have to learn the system by yourself, because there is a progression. It's an evolution. You're not gonna, like we said before, you're not dropped into real estate and all of a sudden you've got a huge team and ISAs and buyers agents. You got to learn how to do it yourself first, and then you can bring on other people to support you. And an ISA is definitely one of those roles, right?
Absolutely. Well, I think that's the biggest journey that an entrepreneur goes on, is to embrace leverage and understand how to train the leverage and how to use the leverage. And the ISA model, or having an ISA in your business, is essential. It's essential leverage to free you up to go do something else that you're probably better at or pays you more per hour.
Right. So you've been in this space for a while now. You've got, well, why don't you tell everybody what you're doing right now, and then we can dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah, yeah. So 7 years ago, I started creating. I became obsessed with creating an ISA support system for agents nationally, recruiting for brokerages, ISA services for agents and teams. I wanted it to be 100% USA based, and I grew so big, I actually just imploded on myself. And I was like, all right, let's start from scratch. And I have rebuilt it to 60 ISAs, which is a small, medium sized, and still was offering services. But now I took a lot of time the last quarter of 2021 to build out the systems and infrastructure to do coaching and training for ISAs nationally and in Canada, or your VAs. So anybody that has agents making calls, an internal ISA, an external ISA, or a VA of some sort, anybody that's in charge of speed to lead, dialing for dollars, handling incoming calls, making outbound calls, they can actually sign up. Every Tuesday, we bring on newcomers. And we start with sellers in the morning. We go to speed to lead and buyers and CRMs in the afternoon. And then Fridays are for one-on-ones. So anybody nationally or in Canada can enroll their ISA, VA, or agents.
Well, I'm glad us Canadians are now cool enough to be included. I appreciate that. Thank you.
The hardest part for you guys is your data. But
Yes.
if you have a CRM, or if you have the systems and you have somebody that you want to train to dial it, we can help you. We actually provide services to Canadian clients. And it's really, it's, you have some of the friendliest people to call and some of the best data. The
You've been
problem,
talking to different people than I've been talking to. I don't know. No, I'm kidding.
I heard some of your live calls. I was going, man, he's tough. You're tough to make the next call. I admire it.
Well, I take a very different approach. You know what? I'd love to hear your take on my approach because this is all a big experiment, and let's dig into that for a second because I think people can maybe learn from that. Today is
Yeah,
Friday. It happens to be because that's when I do my interviews, but it's also when I record my daily prospecting videos, right? And sometimes I do live calls. Sometimes I just talk about other things related to it. But my script is very different. I'm taking a circle dialing approach right now, and my goal isn't necessarily to make appointments right off the bat. It's to build a database right now. So I'm
yep,
building a database where I'm sending out items of value on a regular basis, just as a platform to build upon. And then you can call circle dialing just sold, just listed. We don't do expireds here, but and there aren't that many for sale by owners. But I guess you could take that approach. But right now that's it. And so my whole scripting, it's very simple. It's sort of like, hi, my name is Lorne Cooper. I'm a local real estate agent. Don't worry, I'm not calling to see if you want to sell your home because people get completely inundated with that here. And they usually get a chuckle. You'll hear it in my live dials, like, ha
yep,
ha ha. Yeah, don't worry, I just want to make that clear. Actually, I'm just calling because I've been sending out some information to some of your neighbors for a little while now. And I was, what was I say? Yeah, something like that. So just calling because I've been sending information to your neighbors for a little while now.
yep,
And, so if a house in the area sells, they can see how much it's sold for. They can see the pictures, the price. I was just wondering if you'd like a copy as well. It's that simple. Then I just shut up.
yep.
And so that's kind of the approach that I've taken. Have you seen an approach like that before? I'm sure people do it all the time. What has been most effective in your experience in terms of building a database in your particular farming area?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, number one, when you're going for your farming area, um, the script that you're using, in general, is very powerful because you're not being aggressive, you're not putting them on the spot,
Right,
and it's supposed to leave them with kind of a warm and fuzzy, you're coming from contribution.
right.
You know, I would say that just for me personally, if I was going to be utilizing your same script, I would find that the pivot of their objection, would be difficult to recover from when you start off with, don't worry, I'm not going to try to sell your home. Um, if I were going to rewrite your script, because I had heard some of your dial sessions where you had a high answer rate. I mean, a crazy high answer rate. And for me, if I get told no 3 times, I'm changing my script. I'm not changing how, like, the purpose of my script, but I'm changing my
Sure.
approach when people answer the phone. So if it was me, I would probably do, hi, my name's Aleta. I'm a specialist in your area. As homes are selling like crazy, and I've actually created a report that's tailored to your subdivision, and I wanted to send it out to you. What's the best email address for you? And I go for the assumptive close, and then
Gotcha.
when they say, oh, well, I don't want to sell. Oh, no, absolutely. I understand that. This is probably isn't the best time, especially if you want to buy a house. But if you'd like to have information tailored to your area, based on what is selling, I'd love to send that out to you. Do you have a good email address that I could send this to?
Right.
And typically on that second one, it's either a no or that, right? So usually when I get an objection of I don't want to sell, that's when, oh, no, I understand that. That's when I would use that, not right out the gate. But just
Gotcha.
for me, it's hard to pivot over the phone because really, if they say, oh, I'd love to have that, then I want to be able to say, great, yeah. Well, what's the best email address? Okay, yep, they gave that to me. Okay, perfect. Well, what are your guys' plans? Are you planning to stay there for the next 6 months or a couple of years? Have you given any thought to selling, taking advantage of this market? It leaves that question open for me.
Right.
And I want that because the purpose to a farming phone call is to understand what each person wants to do in your nurture pipeline. So if I understand that these people don't want to sell for 3 years, well, they're in my watch category and I have the notes updated and I have their good email address. If I have people that want to sell in the next 3 to 6 months, Well, I mean, these are the people that literally are going to see me on everything. I'm going to target them on Facebook ads. I'm going to call
Right.
them once a month. I'm going to invite them to, whatever virtual party or in-person party. Those are the people I'm never going to forget about because they're my next deal.
Right.
Um, and so I just find that with that scripting, even though it's humorous and you're going to find people that get a chuckle from it, for me, I would have a hard time pivoting to ask
Gotcha.
them, oh, well, what are your plans of selling? Because you get such a high answer rate, you know?
I don't know. I don't know if I do. I mean, I obviously edit it too because I don't want people just to sit through silence. So,
Oh, you know what? Oh, yes, you speed it up.
right,
Okay.
right. Yeah,
Okay.
because otherwise that would be pretty boring just watching me. And sometimes I'll goof around and play guitar in between. But
I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I was like, what data is he using?
yeah, I
He's
wish.
been dialing for 30 minutes. He had 10 people to answer.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. No, I'm definitely cutting it up, making it easier for people to sort of digest the information quickly. But typically speaking, my numbers are on a 2 hour period, on a 2 hour calling session, I'm hitting around 300 numbers. From the
Okay.
300 numbers, I'm making between 35 to 40 contacts. We're speaking averages here, and
Yeah.
then from that, I'm getting it between 4 and 5 on average emails. So
And, and I would say that your answer rate is great for that data. If you're getting to 30 to 40 people to answer on 300 dials and like that circle prospecting data, that's good
yeah,
data. And that is very sufficient data. I would say even Cole Realty here, nah, I mean 7 to 15% contact rate, depending on what time of day you're dialing, depending on if it's a huge city or a smaller area.
right.
Are you using a triple line or just the
Yeah, I'm using Mojo Triple Line.
perfect? Okay. Yeah. I would say that I would play around with your opening.
Yeah,
It's fun, it's catchy. I think that the recovery is hard to really ask questions because you'd be able to keep them on the phone. Like when they say, "No, I'm not really interested." Okay, great. While I have you on the phone, do you plan on staying there for the next couple of years, or do you have any interest in selling by Christmas? It's a good pivot for you to really understand how to help them.
right.
And if they're like, "No, no, no, I don't want to sell," if that's the objection to the email, I think that would be a great place to be like, "Oh no, no, I'm not trying to get you to sell your home. I know everybody wants that. Just
Well,
come.
what's interesting is that, from my particular experience, and then we can get off of me for a minute, but from my particular experience calling my area, because like you mentioned, my data is so limited, it's just home phones. It's usually older demographic people that have home phones
Yep.
in the area. They're answering it and they don't hear anything other than real estate agent, I don't want to sell my house. So they automatically respond to, I don't want to sell my house right away. You know what I mean? So it's already like, yeah, no, that's exactly why I'm calling. I don't want to sell, get you to sell your house. Actually, I'm just giving your neighbors this thing, which is an inclusive sort of thing. Like, oh, your neighbors are already doing it. I'm already
Yeah,
helping them
absolutely.
out. So, anyway, but yeah, so this is just first round, right? So I'm going to be experimenting with different
You got to
scripts.
play around with it. But
Yeah,
I mean, I would say that even those 4 or 5 people that you're getting their information, you're updating your database. I mean, you're the action item. The other thing that I picked up on is that when people are answering, you're getting a really good idea. Even if they say no, you're getting
exactly.
a good number. And so, I mean, really, just for that purpose, you could have fun and play around with any type of scripting that you wanted. But at least this first go around, you're leaving them without any type of crazy objection handlers. You're not peer pressuring them.
Exactly.
You're not going to be fearful of answering your call. I mean, you could even follow up with thank you so much for answering and taking my call. And if you ever need anything in real estate, I'm here for you. And it's just a real warm and fuzzy, non-aggressive phone call.
Exactly.
Really goes a long way when you're in an area that's really getting harassed.
And,
So
and that's it up here. It's very, very aggressive. There's so many realtors. We have 60 something thousand realtors just in the Toronto area.
yeah,
That's insane. It doesn't make any sense, but that's what we have, and they keep trying to pump out more. So what are you gonna do?
yeah.
All right. So in terms of people and where they are in their business and utilizing an ISA and all the systems, I mean, obviously it's not for somebody day one, but once they've gotten to what point should they really consider this type of system to implement?
Back when I was really learning, the team structure and how they get to their seventh level and how they make strategic hires, the ISA was really considered to be one that you would hire after you brought on buyers agents, and you would really exhaust the buyers agents calling leads in your CRM, and then
Right.
you would make the hire. And I've really found that by the time a solo agent gets a CRM or gets a lead source and they can't make their calls every day because of their appointments, or they're not using it, they're not doing that, they need to start that journey of hiring the right person and
Right.
then building a team around it, because I have found that it's easier to build a team into the ISA model than to say, all right, we are not taking your leads anymore because you're not good at it anyway. And now this guy or this girl is going to do it, and they're our new best friend.
Right.
So trust them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, for me, having some great insight into a bunch of different people and how they built their teams and systems, it makes sense that you're, let's say, solo agent. I mean, if you're moving into a team structure already, then that should be in place. But as a solo agent in your evolution, you should learn how to do this stuff on your own. Once you get to a point where you're too busy to handle it all, then you bring on an assistant to help with all the administrative stuff, all the $10 an hour or $20 an hour work that you really should not be focusing on. Once you have too many appointments at that point to be able to continuously prospect, then you bring on somebody to help with that.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
would you agree with
absolutely.
that?
I would agree with that. And, as you're an agent that's really auditing your brokerage, do they have a transaction coordinator that you can use? Do they
Right.
have marketing people? Do they have admin resources? Do they have training for you to utilize that? I mean, a lot of agents that get their license and they join a real estate brokerage, they don't even know what to ask. And
I didn't know.
yeah, yeah.
We're
I
basically a commodity. For those that really don't know and are thinking of getting in the industry, and you think that the brokerages are interviewing you, no, you're interviewing them. Learn the questions to ask, what kind of support they offer, what they charge is great. It's not the most important thing. It's what value do they offer to help you develop your business, and
yeah,
does that make sense, right?
yeah, yeah, I couldn't agree more. And a new agent, it would be invaluable for them to understand the paperwork, learn the paperwork, be their broker's best friend with going through their first few transactions, and then after that, hire the brokerage recommended TC, their transaction coordinator, pay the $100 to $400 per file, and let them do that so you can go to your next appointment, because you're going to max out. And
Yes.
whether it's 5 transactions or 10 transactions, depending on what you have in your personal life, or how
Exactly.
organized you are, how high your C line is on the disc, you're going to max out. You need to leverage your time. And I mean, a lot of agents, once they get the hang of sales and closing, they really start dropping the ball on paperwork. And it gets to be really messy. And then, you know how it is, you don't get your commissions checked and you got to fix it all. And then, it's like, well, just let the people that are really good at it do it. And I think that's something that we can really learn from our big teams and our solo agents that have really excelled, and the brokerages that go out there and it's learning based, right? Finding the right leverage, embracing it, trusting it, and doing what you're really good at, not having to be really good at everything, is going to be the
Yes.
key to even moderate success. Even if you don't want to close 100 homes, but you want to close 20 or 40, you need to have leverage and systems in place for you to do that without sacrificing all of your family time as a real estate agent.
Absolutely, and letting things fall through the cracks, because let's face it, we can't stay on top of everything. And once you start to effectively leverage these, low dollar responsibilities, we'll call them. I don't know.
Yeah.
Then then you also, you free up your mind to do other things, to focus on what you're actually should be focusing on, and to start creating and working on your business as well as in your business. Because while you have to do all this other stuff, your mind is constantly going. I mean, I don't know about anyone else, but for me, I have to do this, I have to do that. Oh yeah, I forgot to do that thing, like, and you forget to do things. Like you said, you don't get paid, you're constantly stressed. Push that stuff off to someone who can take care of it for you. Focus on what you need to focus on, get the stuff done, right?
Yeah, yeah, multitasking is exhausting. I mean, we just did a mindset class on that where, one of he started off as an intern of mine, and then he built this life coaching, mindset coaching business. And so now he coaches at ISA University, the platform that I created to just kind of give back to our industry. And he was just at his coaching session on real estate fatigue, on when you are changing your hats every single time in a real estate agent, how much energy it exerts you to go back to what you used to do.
Right.
You are exhausted.
Absolutely. And let's face it, I mean, be honest with yourself, get to know who you are, because the disc profile thing that we discussed earlier, it's great to understand clients and how to interact with them, but it really helps you understand yourself as well. And for me, I'm not the most naturally organized person in the world. I'm not a paperwork person. It's just not my bag, and it does not excite me. Let's put it that way, to put it lightly, right? So let me push that off to
Yeah,
somebody else
yeah,
and deal with what I want to deal with, which is helping people buy and sell houses, and that's it, right?
yep, yep. And that's where you make your most money. That's the best use of
Exactly.
your time, and let someone else do something that they're really good at. It shocked me, like there's people out there that obsess over being perfect on paperwork. I'm like, wow. How and why, but keep doing it, but why?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, different types of personalities, right? So let's get to that ISA thing because that is your expertise right now. That's what you're focused on. When someone's bringing on an ISA, they're at that point in their business or their team where it makes sense to bring on an ISA, or they're learning the role themselves for if they need some training. What should an ISA or what could an ISA be focusing on? We touched about it a little bit earlier. They could be outbound calls, inbound calls, recruiting, whatever. Talk about that a little bit. Where should the focus be at the beginning?
Yeah, so if you're an agent that's hiring an ISA into a CRM like Chime or Sierra Interactive or Commission Sync or Follow Up Boss, if you have a CRM KV Core, what you're going to want to do is have your ISA learn that CRM. So a good portion of what they could be doing is observing you doing calls if you're doing them, but then learning the CRM. And most CRMs have such an amazing, like Boomtown. Oh my gosh, their training on their CRM is phenomenal.
Right.
Commissions, almost all of the really big ones have really good training. And so you want your ISA to know the CRM, how it's supposed to be ran, not just onesie twosie from you and the agents, which I think would be invaluable. Even Vulcan 7, RedX, our cold calling services, and even Cold Realty, they have instructionals on how to use their software. And they even have cold call as far as like scripting and speed the lead and that type of stuff. But that's number one. Let them know your systems. Number
Right.
two, they need to know how to converse with leads. And it's different for an agent to call their leads than it is for an ISA. There are things that an ISA either shouldn't say or can't say based on if they're licensed or not. And you want your ISA trained by an ISA or somebody that understands that role.
Yeah, that was
And
my next question. In terms of the training, in terms of the hiring, even, how does one even go about doing that effectively? Should they reach out to, a particular company, hire a company, go for their own ISA? What's the best thing that you've seen?
well, I'm going to say mine because
Obviously.
I love my company. I don't know of another company that's showing agents and teams how to implement an ISA into their team. I did just finish a month of showing you guys. You can purchase the recordings on my website. I'm going to start it live again if you'd rather take it live in June, but it's implementing the ISA model. And I go through how to hire. We write an ad together. We goal setting for your ISA, accountability for your ISA, what team structure should you hire them into. It's 4 weeks of this is how you do it for maximum success, and then we
And
go.
you cover payment structure as well because people just don't know, like, how much do you pay an ISA? What are their roles? All that stuff. So this is great because it's when you don't know what you don't know, it's overwhelming. So you shed some light on
Yeah.
it.
So luckily, I have experience with training and hiring internal ISAs, ISAs that are local but not in-house,
Right.
ISAs that are national but they're USA based, and then also VAs. So virtual assistants that can be utilized as social media managers or ISAs or content creators or admin work. A lot of people they'll go to uh, Fiverr and they'll say, "Oh, I want to hire somebody that's overseas or in another country." And I have experience with working with VAs, overseas employees that are in Nicaragua, Costa Rica, the Philippines, Dubai,
Right.
Australia, London. There's actually a lot of overseas workers that used to live in the U.S. or they're trained to speak English. Their English is their second language. Like you wouldn't even know they knew another language. So there's ways of hiring really good people that won't cost you as much. I'm not this how to hire somebody at $1 an hour type. Like I'm sure there's ways of doing it out there. That's just not something that
Right.
I'm out there trying to find. But you can certainly hire someone within a budget. And I do go into payment structure, where to find these people, what to pay them based on where you're located, and how to structure that. I have a
Right.
different take on a bonus structure that a lot of my teams really like. So they're not paid at closing, but they're bonused on kept appointments, and that keeps your commission sheet a little bit cleaner. There's this huge thing of, well, if the ISA doesn't set the appointment, but they nurtured them, do they get paid? And it's this whole messy gray space. And I'm like, well, they really don't do anything after you've written a contract. So why don't you stop at the appointment?
Right.
And Mike Gerbick's a national teams coach, and he's very vocal on, the ISA model as well. And him and I go back and forth on some of the bottlenecks that teams have, and that was one of them that kept coming up. And so for the past couple of years, we've tried it as a different structure, and it seems to be really working. But yeah, all the payment stuff, base pay, salary, what do we start? What does it look like? We cover all that. I cover all that with you. So
Excellent. Well, listen, if somebody's out there and they're at that point where they're overwhelmed and they've got too much going on, they're considering a VA, they're considering an ISA,
yeah,
and they should reach out to you, because guess what? Rather than throwing crap at the wall to see what sticks, go to someone who's already been there, done that, knows it, trained other people to do it, have some
yeah,
guidance, have some mentorship, right?
yeah, stand on the shoulder of giants. I mean, if it's already being done, why recreate the wheel? I mean, obviously, the beauty of real estate is that you can customize it to what works for you.
Hmm.
And that's also that's our kryptonite as well, right? But you still have creative freedom there, but at least get the foundation, get the base of it. And even for large teams, or even for training companies that they want to offer an ISA training program, I white label so much of what I do that a lot of people don't even realize that they're actually learning my systems or having my ISAs working for them, because it's all white label. So, but certainly if they want to come to the source, they can enroll in it. I've tried to keep it really affordable. I did get some codes just for your podcast. They can type in Future Legends and they'll get 50% off. So
All right, future legends, everybody, future legends. And where do they go? Where do they type it?
ISAUniversityonline.com.
Okay.
So they can go there. And yeah, so Tuesdays, any newcomers that are ISAs, agents, VAs, anybody, absolutely anybody that's dialing Vulcan 7 Red X, cold calls in the morning, and speed to lead, CRM opt-in leads in the afternoon. They can be a part of the whole thing, but we cover all of it, and they can be signed up, and more the merrier. This is my one thing. I love coaching and training ISAs and people to service leads. So
Excellent. Well, you've created a community, a system, but also a community, and that helps, everybody when there's a community and they can learn and feed off each other, watch live in person dials and understand interactions, right?
yeah, we dial live, and then it's we do it, I do it, we do it, you do it. So we do have people that sign up that want to dial live, and they get the feedback and everybody can observe. Not everybody has to do it, it's optional, but my lead trainers and myself, we do dial live in the systems, on screen share, on Zoom, so they see absolutely everything. And
Excellent.
it's invaluable. And so yeah, if you want an ISA, or if you have one and they're just not reaching the goals, or you're just not sure what's wrong with your systems, have them log in. I mean, a lot of times we can swap out a caller ID, or fix a bridgeway, or fix an integration, or be like, hey, you should dial from your phone instead of your VoIP account because you're going to have a stronger connection. Sometimes it's really, really small things, and
Right.
be off to the races. So.
Excellent. So in terms of, expectations for ISAs, let's say, I mean, what do you see typically when people bring on an ISA for the first time? Is it usually like just dialing online leads, or what are you typically seeing?
I suggest that if you have a new ISA, they should be dialing your opt-in leads. For us, it's the bunny hill, it's the dialing candy. And I like for them to start off with your nurtures and watches, maybe not so much speed to lead, because that's your bread and butter. You should have someone a little bit more experienced dialing those. But a lot of times with ISAs, they're just starting out. We have them start off on the nurtures and watches. It's a very easy, friendly conversation, or even go through the ones that didn't answer speed to lead, but they came in that week.
Hmm.
And just really the conversation that you're having with an opt-in lead, whether it's typically buyers, okay, but
Right.
anything that went to a lead form, Zillow or Realtor.com or pay-per-click or OpCity, ZBuyer, any of those sources that came in through your lead funnels and their buyers, it's one of the friendliest calls to make. And we have a 5-point qualifying script that we put them on, and don't tell them, don't steer from this. stick to this script until you talk to 100 people, and then you're telling me that you need to say something different, right? This is
Right.
your script. This is your lane. Really internalize that.
And
And
what
then
sort of expectations should they have for this ISA in
most
terms
of our,
of calls, hours, conversions?
yeah, I mean, I would say by the time they're in their first month with us, they should be setting a 1-to-4 appointment ratio. After every 4 people that answer the phone, they should have one appointment. It could be a lender appointment or it could be an agent appointment, depending on if they're pre-approved or not. But then the other ones are either disqualified as being a viable nurture or they're qualified as a nurture. And every person that answers the phone has a spot on your pipeline. Especially if it's a valid conversation, which Adam Bailey showed us that, where if the name matches the lead form, that's a valid conversation. That's a really good lead. And if you weren't able to close them on that call or have a good conversation on that call, you need to try them again with a different start, or retry them again, in a couple days or so, and really qualify them because that's a good lead.
Yeah, excellent, excellent.
So
Good things to know.
everybody that answers the phone, you should be able to put them somewhere on your pipeline. Absolutely everybody, whether it's good name, good number, didn't get anything and they're a watch,
Right.
you know, um, or, attempted but not qualified, or they're, 6 to 9 months out, or they're 3 to 6 months out, or I got a lender appointment or a live transfer. Absolutely everybody that answers the phone, especially with opt-in data, they need to have a place in your money making pipeline.
Yeah, and that's where, the CRM really comes in, and you have to understand how to work, like you said, the CRM, whichever CRM you're using. I always say the best CRM to use, because everyone always asks, is the one that you're going to use consistently. That's it. I don't
I
care.
agree.
It
I
doesn't have to be super fancy. It just has to be effective and easy to use, so that you do it on a consistent basis, and you rely on that, because we can't rely on this to remember absolutely everything for our follow up. It's impossible, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're
Yeah, yeah.
hand dialing and you're not recording that somewhere, I mean, if you have a CRM with a built-in dialer, that's really great too. But if you're not taking the notes there, when I was watching your videos, I'm still old school too, where I have to have paper in front of me,
Yeah,
and but then everything has to be typed into the system.
right.
Everything has to be cataloged in the system. But I like to write things down. I think that's part of the training too. Or as we evolved into dialers and all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, don't hyper focus on just the appointment. Focus on the conversation. Focus that they're asking more than 2 questions. Focus on that they're not hanging up first, like, and their tone and
Right.
the way they're approaching your leads, and the appointments will come if they get through the conversation and they qualify by time frame motivation for an appointment. The appointments will come. But tonality, if you do that in a repetitious manner and it's wrong, you are learning it wrong. If you are letting them hang up first more than a couple times, you are building that habit, and that's wrong.
Yeah.
So that's the most important part, and that's why I say hire them, get them into our training program, and let us get their foundation, and then from there you can work on advanced practices or really mold them into what you want them to say with your culture, who you are as an agent, where what you do locally.
Right,
uh,
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. And that comes down to the approach of practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. And some coach said that. I don't remember who, someone will tell me in the
that's
comments.
great.
But
That
it's
is
it's pretty
great.
good, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And a lot of times the heavy hitting listing agent or the team owner, they are not the best person to train the ISA,
Right.
and to be consistently their trainer. They're not going to be able to devote the time consistently, and
Well,
then
that's it. They're not, the whole point of getting the IC in the first place is not to devote your time on that. You're supposed to be doing other things, right? Face to face with people, you know? But
yeah,
anyway, yeah,
yeah.
that's good. Excellent. Well, anything else that we should leave these people with, the good people watching and learning, whether they're new agents, seasoned agents, on a team, solo, anything you want to leave them with?
I just want to tell everybody, don't give up, don't quit, find a new way of doing it, be a problem solver. You became a real estate agent, you joined this industry at the end of the day to help people. Yes, for financial freedom, but you wanted to help people and you wanted to do it in your own significant, unique way. And I think that's something that is special that you shouldn't give up on. And so find a way to do it. And if you don't know, or you run into roadblocks, just keep trying, because that moment that you think you're going to quit is that next step that you should have done where you're going to win. And any of us that have been in it long enough knows that there's going to be a huge storm, but the next day you're gonna wake up and be sunshine.
Exactly. Like I say on my daily prospecting videos, some days there have been 2 days, only 2 days, thankfully, where I've gotten 2 hours of calling with zero contacts. But there were some where I got 11, 6, 8.
Yes.
So it all works out. It all averages out. I think the key takeaway that what you just said is find an environment where you have mentorship, you have mastermind, you have the ability to feed off of each other and grow. Don't go at it alone. Get yourself in an environment that really helps growth and collaboration. I think that's the key for success.
Yeah, yeah, and where your ideas are good, just like you said, growth and collaboration, you're not going to be able to grow with negativity and people that aren't supporting you or people that are doubting you. And we all go past that. And one of the biggest mistakes I made was for other people to see my vision and me asking permission for me to build my vision. And at the end of the day, I just had to go and do it and
Yeah.
ask for permission later. And now it's like I don't even need permission. You like my style, you don't like my style. Hey, I'm here to help. Everybody's going to win. We're all going to win together. Let's go. And that's the environment that people really need to surround themselves with, is just appreciation for growth. And you said it perfectly.
Excellent. So once again, tell everybody where they can get a hold of you if they're looking for your services, your trainings, and the discount code.
Yeah. So the best place to go is isauniversityonline.com. You can go to our Calendly link, which is calendly.com/ISA University. But head to the website, isauniversityonline.com, and any event that you subscribe to, if you put in the code Future Legends, if you don't know how to spell it, just Google it. It'll autocorrect you, and then just take out the space. You'll get 50% off on any of the events and coaching.
All right,
And
Future Legends, no space.
no space. Future Legends, all caps, no space.
All right, fantastic. Thanks, Aleta. I really appreciate it. Everybody out there, remember, my name is Lorne Cooper. I'm just north of Toronto. And like, share, and subscribe to the channel, right?
Share and subscribe. Support Lorne.
Thank you very much for joining us today. We'll see you guys on the next episode.